Human suffering is not just pain. It is a message, a signal from the depths of the psyche calling us to pay attention. And Carl Jung believed that suffering is not an enemy. It is a guide when life feels unbearable, when confusion, depression, anxiety, or loneliness overwhelm us. Jung says, this is not the end of the story. It is the beginning of an inner journey, a call to confront something within ourselves that has long been ignored. Every individual carries within them a world that is partly known and partly unknown, and suffering is what erupts when the unknown begins to rise from the shadows. For Jung, the human psyche is not a simple structure. It is a vast landscape filled with symbols, instincts, fears, desires, and forgotten memories, a place where the conscious mind meets the unconscious. And in this meeting lies both conflict and transformation. Suffering appears when this balance is disturbed, when the persona, the mask we show the world, no longer fits the truth of who we are. We begin to feel torn between who we pretend to be and who we really are. And this tearing is experienced as emotional pain. Jung believed that the root of many modern forms of suffering is this deep inner misalignment, the soul trying to correct our path through discomfort. The unconscious mind holds everything we refuse to see. In ourselves, these elements grow into what Jung calls the shadow, the darker rejected aspects of the personality. And the shadow is not evil, it is simply everything we deny within us. We deny our anger, our jealousy, our insecurities, our ambitions, our vulnerability, our creativity, even our greatness. But denied energy does not die. It sinks into the unconscious and begins to shape our behavior. From the dark, suffering increases when we resist this truth, when we fight the inner voice calling for integration. We feel depression when we lose connection with our instincts. We feel anxiety when we fear what is rising from within. We feel loneliness when we fail to listen to the inner self. The psyche sends its warnings in the language of suffering. Jung says that suffering often comes during what he calls the night sea journey, a symbolic descent into the depths where the ego is stripped of illusions. This descent can look like heartbreak, the collapse of dreams, a loss of identity, a spiritual crisis, or a feeling that life has lost meaning. But this night journey is not punishment, it is purification. Suffering clears away fantasies that no longer serve us. It forces us to confront the truth, and that truth brings power. Jung believed that every painful experience contains a seed of growth. And when we explore our pain, instead of hiding from it, we begin a process called individuation, the ultimate goal of Jungian psychology. Individuation is the process of becoming whole. It is not becoming perfect, but becoming complete. It is learning to unite our conscious mind with the unconscious, our light with our shadow, our past with our future, and our suffering with our strength. The journey requires honesty, courage, and a willingness to look inward without escaping. Jung says that an individual who has faced their own darkness becomes stronger, more compassionate, and more fully alive. The suffering you carry today might be the very material needed to build your transformation. Human suffering also emerges from what Jung calls the loss of soul. In modern life, we chase status, success, perfection, and external approval, but forget the inner world. This creates a split. We live outside ourselves, disconnected from our instincts, our emotions, our intuition, and therefore from our true nature. Jung says, the soul does not die, but it withdraws when ignored, leaving behind a sense of emptiness and meaninglessness. Many people confuse this spiritual starvation for depression or failure, but Jung would say it is the soul demanding attention. The cure for this type of suffering is reconnection with the inner world, listening to dreams, symbols, imagination, and the quiet wisdom of the unconscious. Another source of suffering is what Jung calls psychic conflict, the tension between opposites inside us. We want freedom, but we crave security. We want love, but fear rejection. We want success, but fear responsibility. We want to belong, but also desire individuality. This conflict is not a flaw of human nature, it is the foundation of it. Jung believed that tension between opposites creates energy, the same way pressure creates fire. If we avoid the conflict, we stagnate. But if we face it consciously and hold both sides with awareness, we grow. The suffering is the friction necessary for transformation. For Jung, one of the greatest causes of suffering is the failure to meaningfully confront our shadow. The shadow contains what we fear in ourselves, but also what we need, our hidden talents, unused potential, unexpressed emotions, and forgotten instincts. When people refuse their shadow, it becomes projected outward. We blame others for what we cannot accept inside ourselves. We become angry at others because we cannot face our own anger, jealous of others because we deny our own desires, judgmental of others because we fear our own flaws. Jung says that healing begins when we stop projecting and turn inward to meet the shadow face to face, not to destroy it, but to integrate it. And this integration reduces suffering by restoring inner balance. Jung also believed that human suffering has a mythological dimension. Ancient stories of gods, heroes, demons, and trials reflect the same patterns of suffering we see in modern lives when you face a personal crisis. Jung says you are living a myth. Your breakup is the death of an old self. Your depression is the descent into the underworld. Your breakthrough is the resurrection of a new consciousness. Your suffering is part of a timeless human journey, connecting you to all who came before you. When viewed through this mythic lens, suffering gains meaning and meaning reduces pain. Jung emphasizes that suffering is not meaningless when we approach it with awareness. The psyche never inflicts pain without a purpose. It is guiding us, directing us even when we feel lost. What we call suffering might be the psyche's attempt to awaken us to a deeper truth, to pull us away from a wrong path, to push us toward what we have ignored, or to force growth. We avoided, Jung says, neurosis is always a substitute for legitimate suffering. Meaning, when we avoid the real problem, the psyche creates another form of pain to get our attention. Facing the true source of suffering frees us from unnecessary pain and leads to authentic healing. Another insight from Jung is the role of dreams. In understanding suffering, dreams are messages from the unconscious, symbolic expressions of what troubles us or what wants to unfold through us. They reveal conflicts. We hide emotions. We do not process potential. We do not realize, and patterns we repeat. Jung believed that listening to our dreams helps us interpret our suffering with clarity. Dreams show us the way forward. They reveal what the conscious mind ignores and offer solutions that reason alone cannot see. Suffering begins to dissolve when we understand its message. Human relationships also play a role in Jungian suffering. Jung believed we are wounded through relationships, and we are healed through relationships. The deeper our connections, the deeper the wounds, and the deeper the potential for transformation. Suffering in relationships often arises from projection. We see in others what we refuse to see in ourselves. This creates conflict, but this same conflict shows us what we must integrate within the self. Every meaningful relationship is a mirror, and sometimes the reflection hurts. But Jung saw relationships as classrooms, where the psyche teaches us about our hidden patterns and inner wounds. Suffering becomes an opportunity for emotional growth and self-knowledge. Jung also spoke about the importance of meaning. He said that suffering is unbearable when it has no meaning, but becomes transformative. When meaning is found, meaning does not eliminate pain, but it gives us strength to endure and evolve. Jung believed that each person must discover their own meaning through introspection, creativity, spirituality, relationships, and self-understanding. When suffering becomes part of a meaningful journey, it stops feeling like destruction and becomes initiation. Ultimately, Jung teaches that suffering is not a mistake. It is part of the path. Every crisis pushes us closer to our true self. Every heartbreak reveals what we value. Every fear shows us where to grow. Every failure teaches humility. Every shadow we face brings us more wholeness. The goal is not to escape suffering, but to transform it into wisdom, strength, compassion, and individuality. The person who emerges from suffering is never the same. They are deeper, clearer, more authentic, and more powerful. Jung says that the greatest burden a soul must bear is the unlived life, the parts of ourselves we never explore, the dreams we abandon, the emotions we suppress, the potential we never express. Suffering is often the signal that we are living too small, too safely, too far from who we are meant to become. The path forward is courage, the courage to look inward, to face the shadow, to listen to the soul, and to walk the night sea journey with trust. Human suffering is universal, but Jung offers a profound truth. Suffering is not the end. It is the doorway to the self. And through that doorway, we discover not only who we are, but who we have. The possibility to become. The journey is difficult, but it is meaningful. And in the depths of suffering, the psyche whispers its quiet message: you are becoming whole.